So welcome everybody to this video, and I am thrilled today to have Murray McEachern with me. He is a fellow coach and peer and follower of my work. And today we wanted to have a conversation together just to give you, the viewer, a better idea of who I am and what I do and why I do what I do. And so basically, without further ado, we'll start to get into this conversation. So welcome, Murray. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm every time I have a conversation with you, I learn more about all the dimensions of what you do. And so I'm excited to be here, and I'm grateful that you invited me.
Yeah, so thank you. So Murray is going to ask me some questions that will hopefully give you, the viewer, a sense of what I do, why I do it, and how I actually got to be doing what I'm doing and why it is important today and for our future.
Excellent. Yeah, and you know, we touched a little bit on, you know, how we might approach this, and I think starting with Gail, you know, if you could tell us, where are you at in what you do and who you are in it today?
So that's a really interesting question, because I consider myself to be not your average kind of person.
No, you certainly are not.
Which people concur when they meet with me. And the reason why I say that is because I have discovered that I have a gift that I can access a lot of knowledge outside of our planet Earth. And if that sounds woo-woo, it is. It's a very individual kind of experience, and I'm able to what's called channel. And channeling, anybody can channel actually, because all you have to do is tap into your own inner knowing within yourself, and you can channel your own guidance and your own guides. And you will notice that you do that when you have thoughts that come fleetingly to you, or just like little ideas that come to you. And I have been experiencing that for a long time, but this particular kind of communication is very unique, because I know that I am, in fact, in many cases, the only individual on the planet channeling these particular energies. And so the messages come through to me initially for me, but predominantly now for people at large, for humanity as a mass. And so it's very exciting because, first of all, I never know who's coming in, and they are always bringing beautiful messages of love and light, and they're very pragmatic. They're very succinct in what they want us to know. And so it's been a really kind of enlightening, and enlightening is a great word to use, enlightening experience to have being able to be the conduit for these energies to help us right now, because we really are struggling on Earth with some of the things that we're dealing with. And these energies have a much greater level of intelligence than we do on the planet. So,
Gail, would you be able to offer an example? I'm here. I'm totally and completely fascinated, and I'm finding myself wanting very much to understand, what does this look like and feel like in the experience, I don't know, of an individual or a group, or how does that work?
well, for anyone who's ever been hypnotized, you'll understand what I say when I say that you go into a little bit of a different state. And so what happens for me is that I will, in essence, go into a little bit of a hypnotic state. But for many people who are hypnotized, they don't actually lose their conscious awareness of what's going on. And that's true for me also. So when I bring in an energy, it's almost as if I'm present, but my brain is offline. And I have messages that come through me that I can then verbalize into English. And they don't process through my brain. So I actually have to mentally take my brain and put it to the side sometimes, depending on how strong my ego is, if I'm trying to understand what's coming through. So I can just, what I call, drop in, and then I wait to see who's coming through. And oftentimes it's immediate. It's thoughts, it's words, it's sentences, it's metaphors, it's stories, it's information that is helpful for people. And it's as if someone else is speaking through me, and they are. That's exactly what they're doing. It's not scary. It's a very pleasant experience. Now, at the beginning, it wasn't quite so pleasant because I have to adjust my level of energy in order to match their level of energy, because their energy level, their vibration is much higher than mine. So I have had to work to maintain my own high vibration to be able to connect. And at the beginning, that was very difficult. In my human form, I found my body like really having a hard time adjusting to having these energies flowing through me. But
So,
that wasn't for long.
so when you say they,
I know it sounds so crazy.
well, no, it just, I mean,
So think about it like this. So
it's otherworldly to us who are newcomers to what you do. It's otherworldly.
it is
So
completely.
I find myself,
Yeah.
on the one hand, I'm interested, please, if you could elaborate a bit on what is this they, and then the B part is this in the name of an individual that you are, forgive me for my layperson's terminology, but that you are channeling on behalf of, or are you channeling on behalf of a group of people, or a community, or a country, or all of it? Or is that a fair question?
It's a perfectly normal question.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
so the way I like to explain it to people is, most people know what a medium is. So a medium is someone who channels the energy of someone who has passed over, someone who's died, a relative, a pet,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
What I'm channeling are energies much, much, much bigger than that. So when I say they, it's generally a mass of energy. So the first group that I brought in called themselves Alaster. And they call themselves Alaster because the vision that I had when I channeled them was this mass of stars in the sky, much as when you would look at a picture of the Milky Way. And there was 10,000 of these energies in this one mass. And they were all star energy, and they all were considered masters of the universe. So these were in energies of souls of individuals who had lived multiple lifetimes, garnered huge amounts of intelligence, and had all massed together for the purpose of traveling through the galaxies to bring love and light into wherever areas that were dark and needed love and light. So this was the first group that I brought through. They are a very animated group. And I think that that was essential for me because I'm also a very animated person. And so I really got them when they first came through. And I can bring them through anytime. They're a wonderful group. They're very, very lively, and lots of fun. And so that's when I say they, because predominantly these are the kinds of groups that I'm bringing forward. So I bring forward several councils. And again, these are of different dimensions, which I don't quite understand all the science behind it. But there's a group that I work with from the 8th dimension that call themselves the Bar Council. And they deal with the topic of fear. And so they always come through when they are bringing messages to help allay fear within the human species. And then I've also brought through, they call themselves the green beings. And my vision of the green beings is like they are aliens, like you would imagine an alien to look like, but they're not aliens. They told me that. They've told me also that they are just a non-physical energy source, that they gave me the vision of, these two green beings so that I would have something to kind of be able to look at, to see that that's what it is. And I often bring forward people's guides. So I'll have a sense of energy that's around me, and maybe there's 2 people, maybe there's 4. It really depends. And the biggest one that I channel is I call it the infinite, but it's infinite intelligence source itself. And this is just this enormous, you could say it's like a cloud, but it doesn't even have that form. It's just this, like a wave of beautiful, loving, peaceful, all-knowing energy. So I just always call them they, because there's rarely just one, unless it's a specific master that I'm bringing through, such as Archangel Michael or someone like that.
Okay. Okay. Wow. I mean, I'm bedazzled, because this is all, speaking personally, and perhaps to others who visit, this is all new to me, and I am so curious and so fascinated, and really in feeling in a sense of wonder about it all. I'm getting the distinct impression, Gail, that when people engage you in conversation about what you do and who you are, you're not having a lot of difficulty engaging them.
Well, because originally when it first started, I was a little freaked out by it, but luckily I wasn't alone when it started. So I'm very comfortable with it now, because I can see that the messages that I bring are so beneficial to people, and they really help people. So why would I want to hide that light under a bush? Like, people need to hear this. People need hope.
Right.
And they're here to assist us. They're here to help us.
So I find that inspiring, and you help. I mean, my sense of it is you help me get over any sort of misgivings or misinterpretations or misjudgments or misperceptions of this world that you are enlivened in, and you give those who you channel on behalf of that same sort of enlivening experience. It's very bright and light and airy and loving and mysterious, of course, for all of us.
For sure. And it's very clear. There's no ambiguity about it. I mean, I know who I'm pulling in when I'm pulling them in when they come in. I know what their message is. It's very direct. I think that my ability to speak clearly and communicate well is a great assistance to me. And I know that channelers, and there are many, many, many other channelers in the world, and I follow many of them. And it's very common that the groups that come through use the wisdom of the individual that they're coming through from. And what's really more far out is to believe that that individual is actually part of the group that they're bringing through. So they are one of them. And so I recognized that very early on. And I was told by Alastair specifically that I was selected, and I volunteered to be the spokesperson for them in this lifetime on planet Earth, which is even more far out than most people would be able to get their heads around.
So in my layman's terms, I am, and again, correct me if I'm off base at all, but I am, in my very basic terms, learning that there are energetic resources available to us through you for insight and hope and positivism, and that you have this ability to access those resources on our behalf. And it kind of rings of like you're bilingual. You speak that language, and you can translate that language into understandable language for those that you are channeling on behalf of.
Absolutely, 100%. Yes.
So the B part is, who are you channeling on behalf of, Gail?
Well, I'm channeling on behalf of, let's call it intergalactic energies that have a vested interest in Earth continuing to exist and also thrive in the way that it was designed to, as heaven on earth. So our Earth herself is up leveling in her level of consciousness. And what that means is that she's becoming healthier, cleaner, more light filled. So there are energy is I don't understand, as I said, all the science behind it, but the idea that there are fractals of light within all energy, and that those fractals of light have a certain energy level, and that we have been in a very heavy, dense, vibrational level of that light for a long, long time, and that it is now the journey of Earth and us as a species to up level that.
Okay.
So we can have a better experience, so we can be more light filled, more love filled, more peace filled, all of that kind of experience.
Clearly, this is the world of experience that you live in. I mean, you are enveloped in it just as we speak, and you're not even channeling. So right. So here we are, and I'm imagining a newcomer like me to this experience. And if you could please, before we move on to the next part of our conversation, is forgive my sort of rudimentary terms, but can you bring it home for what this means to someone who could benefit from working with you, engaging with you, collaborating with you, however you term that? Because I'm assuming that though you might be able to do this in isolation of an individual or a group, or that this is of best service if there is someone you are channeling on behalf of.
Well, what happens is that when I do individual sessions.
Okay, so you do individual sessions.
Yes, so
okay.
I work with individuals, and generally what I will ask them to do is to bring forward 5 or 6 of their most important questions. And wow. So what I will do is I just go into trance, into my own state, and whoever needs to come through for them will come through. So I don't guide that in any way. I recommend that people come with some form of questions, because as a human being, you have free will and you have a desire to live a certain life. And your soul is also guiding you through that. But your soul and your spirit kind of work together to have this experience. So in a private session with someone, I would do a couple of card readings, oracle card readings, to kind of open the session and close the session. And those card readings will always intuitively match whatever the messages are that come through for that individual. They will always see the connection between the opening card and the closing card and the messages. And that session is always recorded for them, so then they can go back and listen to it over and over. Because what happens in the session itself, the vibration of energy that I'm bringing through is actually having a transformative experience on the individual themselves in the experience of listening. And so they can't always remember, because when that message comes through, I can be speaking very fast without stopping, because it's not coming through me. I don't have to process it. I just bring it.
So I'm curious, is there any questions that are out of bounds, or does someone bring any questions they like? That's A part, and the B part is, when you channel, is it conceivable that you are informed that the answers are not to be forthcoming at this time, or?
Oh, they're very clear.
Okay.
Oh, yes. So
any questions out of bounds?
Depends on the group that I'm channeling. So when I first started channeling Alastair, because they're all about love and light, they said no questions on politics, because there's no love and light in politics. And so basically they said, we don't want to address any political issues. We're here to assist humanity with relationships, with trust, with love, with communication, with understanding how you operate as a human being. And so that was really their mandate. And each of the collectives has their own thing. So the green beings are all about health. And I channel the goddess Sophia, who is also Mother Earth, Gaia. And she's very much about the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And I also channel another group called the Love Matriarch. And they're even more integrated with the divine feminine and the divine masculine. So depending on whether it's someone's guides who come through or a collective, they will tell you very clearly whether or not they have the answer to your question. And sometimes you don't actually want that answer, and sometimes that's not actually the question. So they're very intuitive in telling you what you need to know versus what you want, because they're connecting through your soul also, and they're able to give you what you need to get you to the next place so that you can still make your own choices, because you do have free will, and everything that they will suggest or answer always comes as a form of a suggestion. We suggest, you might want to think about, have you thought about. They'll never tell you what to do, because they recognize that they're coming at it from their own level of consciousness, and we're our own consciousness level, so we get to choose. They can't tell you to do anything, and they can't tell you that anything will or will not happen, because they're only reading the current timeline and the level of consciousness that you're in right now. So what you do with it then creates the next present moment, and then that would be the moment that they would be reading from.
Okay.
So and they don't want it to be overwhelming either. So they try to keep it simple, and they give really easy metaphors for people that really work very effectively. Make no sense to me as the channel coming through, but make very good sense to the person who's listening.
Thank you, Gail. I mean, this is an introduction to who you are and what you do that is substantial. Now, I find myself curious as to how it is that you arrived in this place of doing what you do in the ways that you do it. Could you touch on that for a few minutes? How did you come to be? Is the right terminology to say that you are a channeler?
Yes, that is
okay.
correct. Yes,
so how did you come to be a channeler?
So I had a very how would I call closed off life for the first 35 years of my life, where I was completely not aware that I had any of these gifts. I just lived a normal life. I grew up in a family. I went to school, I went to college, I got married, and then I came to Canada from Scotland, and then I stopped working, had my children, stayed home with them. I was a stay-at-home mom. It was all a very normal life. And then in my mid-30s, I went through a fairly serious health challenge, multiple health challenges actually, and ended up getting divorced and restructuring my life and re-educating myself into professional coaching and speaking, and thinking, well, I've gone through all of these experiences, and so I can help other people. That was the intention. But very early on in that journey of self-discovery, let's call it, things started to happen that were not what you would consider to be normal. So one small example that I'll give you is a girlfriend of mine was dying of breast cancer, and the cancer had spread all throughout her body, and my girlfriends and I went to visit her in the hospital. And one of my friends was very much into Reiki healing, which is an energy healing, and meditation and all of these things. And I was not into anything like that. It was totally alien to me. But she had done one session with this girl earlier in the year with us to try to help her and heal her, and nothing had changed. But here we were now in St. Mike's Hospital but doing this laying on of hands to my girlfriend, which was very weird for me. I had no experience of this. But in the midst of that, I started channeling. And I knew that it was not me. I knew it was very unusual. But so there I was standing with my hands over my girlfriend, and I was being given words to say to bring her peace. And I knew then that that was not me. I didn't know who it was. I didn't know how it was happening, but I knew that it was not of me. And I knew also that it was bringing her a lot of peace. And that was on the Thursday, and she passed away on the Monday. And I knew that it was part of her healing. It was part of her passing, for she was to get that message. I never told anyone about that experience that I'd had, Murray, because it was just too far out. After my divorce, I started meeting somewhat synchronistically many different individuals who were involved in healing and psychic stuff and card reading. And everywhere I went, somebody, oh, would you like to go to this workshop? Would you like to read this book? You should know this person. And so over time, I kind of began to dabble in these things. And then I was running my own workshops, and I was intuitively guided to bring someone in about who knew about crystals. And so all of these kinds of things started happening. And eventually, over time, I started meditating and really beginning to tap into my own intuition and recognizing that it had a lot to offer me in terms of guidance within my own life. And I began to trust it. And then I really began to recognize that there was this kind of, and I call it a witch part of me. And I mean that with the greatest of respect to the word witch, where I had gifts that I had never accessed prior to that. So all of these things culminated by the time I got to 2014 in this really strong self-awareness that I had this going on, which was very surprising to me, because the first half of my life, I had never really dabbled in much of that. I mean, my mother had been somewhat involved in fortune tellers, and we would go to fortune tellers, but in Scotland, that's pretty normal. In fact, well, maybe it's not normal, but in my life, it was normal.
Right.
So I was used to that, but then I had married someone who vehemently opposed that kind of stuff. So I just put it out of my life. Maybe if I hadn't done that, it might have come faster, but it didn't, and it's fine. And then in mid 2014, I had a transformative experience with a psychic in London that I met, who basically told me who I was from a spiritual perspective, which kind of just blew the top of my head off. And since then, I've had other people tell me these things, other knowing people saying
So
to me.
I'm hearing that, there was this quite extraordinary pathway beginning with being at bedside with your girlfriend, and since then, this cornucopia of synchronistic experiences that led you to a deeper and deeper understanding that there was something unique and special about your nature that is in this realm of channeling.
Yes, and sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, as we sort of come into the culmination of our conversation, can we have explored where you are at and this mysterious and wondrous world within which you operate and you serve. And we've gone back and charted a bit of a history lesson as to how you came to be in the place and space that you are in these ways. As our conversation concludes, Gail, could you touch on what intentions do you hold for who you are and what you do to help those of us who are experiencing you here to appreciate where does this go? What happens with all that you are at this point? What do you hold in your heart as far as your intentions from here?
Well, I think it's very clear to me now that the rest of my life is to be devoted in this realm. I don't believe this is all for nothing. I believe that there's a very strong reason why I am who I am, doing what I'm doing right now at this moment in time, because as I mentioned before, we are up leveling. We are going into, and we are in what's called the Great Awakening. And what that means is that, you know, people are becoming more aware of themselves and the energy with which they live their lives. And I've come to realize that I can be a great contributor to assist people with the awakening and with their own up leveling, because we're no longer going to be living, although it may appear that way right now, it's not going to last, in this energy of fear and control and heaviness and darkness. We are moving out and up and into a greater level of light and love on the planet. But we're not there yet. It's almost like, you know, we're at the beginning of the race, and we have to train to be able to get to the end. And so I think my intention is to be a channel for people, to be able to assist them, because I have this gift of being able to read people and also bring messages for them that are helpful for them. And you know, that comes in various forms, whether I'm writing, you know, I write a lot as well. So whether I'm writing in my blog, or I'm sharing on social media, or I'm explaining a video about a channeling that I've done and people can listen to the audio on my website. All of these different formats will bring people forward in their energy. And I also have done several live events with people where I can channel different groups for individuals depending on what their question is around. And that's a really fun thing to do, because I never know who's going to come in. It's not like I'm just channeling this one energy. I could be bringing in multiple energies in one session with an audience. And I really want to be able to do that moving forward. Ideally, I'd love to travel the globe and be able to do live events with people, because I also know that I'm a healer and I can bring healing to people. Of course, I can do that remotely also, but I'm a professional speaker. Audiences are my thing, and I love being on stage. So to be able to bring all that together in this last, you know, hurrah of my life is just the most exciting thing to be able to do. It would be just such a pleasure, and it's my passion, and I believe it's my purpose to play in this realm.
Yeah, thank you, Gail. Clearly, you know, just the passion and purpose that you bring to even describing what your intentions are, you know, strike at the authenticity in you of this for me. You know, I've known you a long time, and today here I am learning about whole new dimensions of who you are that, you know, I thought I had a sense of Gail, and I do believe I have a sense of Gail, but then there's this whole remarkable, extraordinary world that you serve in and you communicate in. And I just want to, you know, close by saying, first of all, thank you very much for holding the conversation and illuminating as it is, and I believe it will be for so many who watch and listen. But also to say what I have known about you over the last decade or so that I have known you. One word comes to mind, and it's the word trust. And it's learning to trust in oneself, you learning to trust in yourself, learning to help others to trust in themselves. And I draw from this that to learn to trust in life and living and the unfolding that is taking place around us, that you have special access to. And so maybe a final word from you before we close off.
Yeah, thank you, Murray, for being here and asking me all these questions and bringing this out of me, because it's really wonderful to be able to share this journey that I've been on with everyone, and really give people a sense of the hope that I bring forward for people, which I think is so necessary right now. And you're right about the trust, because that was originally where my focus was in my coaching business, around trust. But just realizing that, you know, the aspect of just trusting the process is something that I think we try to manipulate and control that, and to really understand that what we're going through is what we're meant to be going through. But how can we evolve ourselves out of that and still trust the process that we're in? And so, yes, it might seem that things are a little difficult right now, but that I do trust the process, and I have trusted it over the last couple of decades as I've gone through my own transformation and my own awakening. Right. And so as we are all going through this awakening process, can we trust it? Can we trust the process? And I know that I can, because I have access to a much greater level of intelligence and love that's out there that I can bring to help you as well. And so I think that's really crucial for people to realize that there is hope. There's definitely a lot of hope.
Thank you, Gail. It's been a very illuminating time together this morning, and I trust for those who watch and listen will have similar experience.
Thank you. And if you are interested in knowing more about the kind of work that I do, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel and subscribe to my newsletter, where I do send out the recent channelings that I do. And if you are interested in the work that I do, please do get in touch with me, and all the links are below. Thank you.